So he said from the 415. Where are you from, Jermaine?
I'm from San Francisco, California, born and raised. Still there right now today. I love it, man. And Wendy, that's right, Frisco, babe, 49ers.
I'm from Santa Rosa myself. I live in Bakersfield now, which sucks, but San Francisco is kind of home for us too.
That's right. Oh, that's cool, man. I see we have something in common.
You know, this guy finds every single thing we do. So we co-host a podcast together called Who the Fuck is Frank, right? And he finds, no matter what he can do, he finds an opportunity to mention Bakersfield every
No. They rag on me
single
all the time. I, unfortunately, find myself in Bakersfield right now. But, and I hate it every day because I'm from Northern California and I know how beautiful California can be, and I am in the worst part of it. They find a way every episode to remind me that I live in the armpit of California.
That's cool.
So it's been a little while since I've been up to the Bay Area up there, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great place, man. There's a lot of energy in that city and stuff like that. And like with what you do, how's the following up there for you at home? Like, how does that really experience for you?
Man, it's pretty big, man. Being an inner city kid, I played basketball growing up, made a lot of friends. It's great, man. As the show developed and I ended up landing myself on a Street Outlaws TV show, and I felt like I had the whole city on my back, man. I had a lot of support. My family was in the race cars all their life. So all the older guys and a lot of the older fans and the people that, because racing kind of died out there for a long time. And when I came, it's like I lit the fire back. And I just been carrying the torch, man, with a lot of support.
Now, your racing background goes back to your dad. Your father, Albert, was also a racer.
Yes, definitely. My father and my uncle.
He had kind of a military mindset. Everything had to be just so, and if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't right, and you kind of like grew into that, and then you went into basketball and stuff, but racing was always on your mind, it was always in your heart. Like, how did that kind of drive you to where you're at now?
Man, my dad, like you mentioned, very militant. The will to win and the will to be as best we can be, it was installed in me, started off with basketball, and that drive carried right on the race cars. And it pushes me as well as my son. There's a lot of people don't know my son. He raced with me. And our will to win, our will to try to get to the top is just phenomenal. My dad just pushes us crazy.
Nice.
So I'm the guy that I like to ask the question you're not supposed to ask, right? That's my thing, right? And this gets asked with us on the show, Pawn Stars I always get asked, who's your favorite to work with? So that's the first question I ask, is of all the other guys on the show that you compete against and all that, who's your favorite to go up against? Even if it's your biggest rival, who's your favorite? Who gets you going the most?
I gotta say, Daddy Dave. The reason why I say Daddy Dave is he started off beating me and he started keeping the record. So every time I would see him, he had the record of him being undefeated on me. And I had a grudge against him. I wanted to beat him so bad. And when I finally did, it was like the best feeling because he had this record on me. I'm 6-0 and he really had a good record. He was like, I couldn't beat him. And actually, before I beat him, my son beat him first. So he would remind me that didn't count. so yeah, I would say working with him and racing against him. This is a competitive nature out there. Everybody is so competitive, man. The field is phenomenal. It's crazy.
Well, that competition is what drives the sport. It's what drives the hobby, because if you're not competing, what's the point of having the fastest?
That's right. That's right. And a lot of people, they downplayed us when we came out on a TV show because we were street racers, you know, and then they were telling us that we only can race on the street and we couldn't do it at the track. And then we transitioned to doing No Prep Kings, which landed us on the track. And of course, the track, we tried to mimic the street by having less no prep out there, meaning no rubber sprayed. And a lot of guys was just downplaying it, saying that they can get out there and they can compete with us. And once we developed and got out there and there was a lot of big name racers came out and tried to compete with us, they couldn't. It's just, the level that these guys is on, or us as a group, is insane, man. These guys, I don't think it's anybody in the world can come do what we do and can come compete with us without putting some years in.
Well, and everybody's so hyper-focused on their particular flavor. So you've got, sprint car racers and NASCAR drivers, the stock car or whatever. So I don't think that anybody really realizes that they are very different sports with very different requirements. Like the things that you undergo as a driver, as a builder, it's not the same thing as a stock car, and you can't compare them.
That's right. And that's the reality came when these guys came and tried to compete with us on our level, and they seen that it wasn't easy. And also, a lot of people is familiar with Kai Kelly. He branched off to go to like the biggest race in the country, which is the Pro Mod racing, which was right under the NHRA racing, or the top few guys, you got the Pro Mods. And that's the second fastest level. And he left with his no prep car, went over to the biggest race in the country for $100,000, and he won the race. So that just let them know this is a no prep car that didn't even win in the no. I think he placed 7th place with us for the year. He went over to that race and took 1st place. So this just let people know the level of cars and the level of racing we own is very high.
Well, and I think that there's an impression that people who are not familiar with the sport, that they have of the types of people who would be involved in this, right? And I know that with your popularity and the way that you are on the show and things like that, you try to break some of those stereotypes that people have for street racers.
Right. That's very well said. Exactly what we do. It's like we are proving ourselves all the time. Because like I say, these guys, they really believe that we can't compete on a high level, and because the type of racing we do. But we are street racers. That's who we are. We're outlaw racers. That's what we do. But we can get on that track and compete with anybody on any level.
It looked like you had something.
No, what I love is like immediately, and this is important to me whenever I'm talking to someone as a guest, right? When your passion resides in the conversation, and I could see it coming out, and as soon as you started talking about competing, you changed. And you see that come into play. And I just love that. Is that a switch that you flip, or is that just, is it adrenaline? What is it that just makes that change in you where you go? Because, look, when I first met him, super even keel, almost like kind of talking a little light. And then as soon as we started talking about getting into the competitive side of things, you instantly like, can't compete with us, like, and that, dude, I hear that and I see that. So does that a flip you switch? Is that just, has this been, have you been an adrenaline junkie forever? Like, what's the deal there? I love it.
It's so automatic, man. It's like, in my household, you wouldn't believe, the first video game that came out, which was probably Atari 2600, we were battling with, it's 6 of us, and we were battling with, well, 6 boys, and then it's my dad and my uncle. We were battling in the house on the video game. We had records, who had what record in each game. We've been, like, I'm so competitive, it's insane. When I first got my first Celica, my dad, first thing he wanted to do was take me out and make sure I knew I couldn't outrun his Chevette. So my competitive nature is just, it's in me, man, it's driven.
Was that your first car, the Celica? Or what was your first car?
Actually, the first car that I got was a Toyota Celica, but I couldn't drive it. I was actually 13 years old. That's a funny story. I was 13 years old. A friend of mine, I had some glasses, some very popular glasses. They was called Gazelle glasses. I had some glasses, and he had a Celica. But the Celica, someone had broken all the windows out of it. So he told me he liked my glasses. He said, hey, I can't do nothing with the Celica because I don't have the money to fix the windows. You want to trade me your glasses for the Celica? It runs well. So I said, sure. I text my dad, hey, can I trade my glasses for a car? And will you be willing to fix the windows? He says, you don't have a license, so I'll buy the car and you park it. And once you get licensed at 16, which is 3 years later, you can drive it. Well, my dad used to work at night. So I used to go out and take the water hose. I lived on a hill. I used to go take the water hose to my friend's house, water the street down. I had to get the keys to the Celica because it was a 4-speed. And I would burn rubber up and down the street until I knew my dad was coming home at 12 at night, and I would park the car. So that's how I learned how to drift.
Like, I mean, I think everybody can relate to doing that kind of stuff when their parents are out or whatever, but your neighbors didn't argue off on that?
Well, I grew up in a rough neighborhood. So the guys was telling, they were yelling at me, put that car, what are you doing? What are you doing? But, you know, it was like this young
There was like a
kid.
level. There was a level
There
of
was
just
a
keeping
level.
it quiet because
Yes.
boys will be boys.
Definitely.
That's awesome. It was. I remember. I had a '74 Chevy Nova 4-door. Was my very first car. My dad bought it off the street for $450, and then the junkyard was full of weeds out front. Right. So we weed eated and knocked down all the weeds in front, and they let us take any part off any car out there that we wanted. So we stripped down another Nova and got all the interior and stuff and dressed that car up. And that car, I remember, I'd be able to hit a corner, and if I hit it just right, and my girlfriend was in the passenger seat, she'd come right across that bench, and I could put her right next to me every time.
So I'm gonna tell on myself here. So my foster parents, they had a '76 International Travelall, right? And they would go out of town and they would leave me because, you know, I was 16, whatever. They could leave me in the house, but they left the keys. And the thing was, I would take the car out, go to the store, do all the stuff, right? Because, you know, I'm a big man at 16. But the thing that got me busted is Daryl, my foster dad, had a towel that he kept on the driver's seat. And like when I slid my butt in, that towel got scrunched up in the center. So he comes and he sets me down and he goes, "I know you drove the car." And I'm like, What are you talking about? He's like, "I know you were in the car." He's like, "My towel's not in the right spot." I'm like, "That goddamn towel. Like, this is the simplest little detail that's gonna screw you up."
Yeah. That's funny.
Did you, you know, ever, like in your race career, like when getting into racing, did you ever like race a car that you're like, okay, this car is inferior to these other cars. However, I am behind this, so that car, I can drive this better than they can drive that better performing car?
Definitely, that's a good question. So I'm a grudge racer. That means I set races up with guys, and we lock in what you call lock-in money, and we perform the race. So it's many times that I lock in my car with a car that I know I can't outrun. But it's a lot of mental that go into racing. A lot of people don't understand. The race is not won always with the fastest car. The race is won on the starting line, a lot of the talking before the race, and the type of money that you put up to. A lot of racers are not used to putting up a certain amount of money. So if you can get them out of their character and things like that. So yes, a lot goes into my plot to lock in a race with another grudge racer. And it ain't always that I got the fastest car.
Well, so what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly, is like it's not just the equipment, it's not just the driver, it's a whole host of other things that go into it. So, you know, breaking it back to football, when you're talking about odds and what the line is, you know, what the quarterback had for breakfast, did he just have go through a nasty divorce? Like, you know, what the hell happened to Kansas City in the Super Bowl?
That's right. It's a lot that goes into it. And racing, a lot of people, they like if you watch racing and you just see it, it's so different if you just get, if I can bring you into my pits, into the plot, or into the garage when we put these cars together, or into a scheme to call another guy out, to our plot to call him out, and our strategies. It's so much into racing, man. Racing has so many details, it's insane.
Well, like what you're mentioning right now reminds me of the fight game, right? That like boxers or UFC fighters, you know, you have this candor back and forth like that. And obviously, I don't think people realize, especially when we're looking at, you know, things like NASCAR or some of these other racing elements that are out there, right? You don't, outside of like when a guy causes an issue for someone else, you don't get those like negative interactions, right? But it sounds like to me, you guys have a little bit of that like pregame, like function and back and forth, you know, the press conference before or whatever it is. Sounds like that mental game is as important as it is you being in the car and driving, right?
Very important, man. It's kind of, you have certain guys though, like, I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with Ryan Martin. He wins an awful lot in the Street Outlaws. He's a very fast guy. The average guy, you can get into their head. You can throw their game plan off, but you got that one guy like Ryan Martin. It don't matter what you say. It's like he don't even pay attention. It's kind of like you watch basketball when you had Shaquille O'Neal and all these guys playing. Then you had Tim Duncan, one of the greatest players to play the game, and nothing you said bothered him. You can do anything you want to him on a basketball court, and he'll go out and he'll perform on the same level every time. So the strategies mostly work a lot against a lot of people, but it's just a couple guys that it won't.
You know, I coached baseball hitting instruction for a long time, right? And I did that. And one of the things I used to tell my students was never let your chin hit your chest, because you never wanted to let the pitcher know that you were B, right? What is the one like intimidation factor that you would use with other drivers that you know, like when you go there, like me, I'm a big guy, right? And I know, and if I get into like some type of a verbal altercation or someone with someone, every time that happens, I talk this way. I don't get loud. I don't get like.
I have
it is-
witnessed this, and it is scary. It is scary because this was real beef, and it is deep rooted, and it goes way back, and it is very, very personal. And I was sitting there at the table, I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like I'm turning around because I don't want to witness this. This dude got slaughtered next to me, and this man, his pulse rate never went up, his breathing never changed, and his voice never went above this level.
So do you have what's the one thing that you know that gets under? We'll say most people. How do you get underneath most people's skin?
Wow, that's challenging. So it's such a different strategy for everybody because everybody have their own.
He's also not going to lay his cards on the table right here, man. He's still competing.
Well, I get that. When, you know,
If he was
I see he's
retired.
trying to hide some of the tricks to the trade. I get it.
But one of my things is my betting technique. I'm known to bet a lot on a race. A lot of times that take guys out of their comfort zone. And to me, because it's all it's financial. This racing stuff, like it costs so much to get to these races, and you don't want to spend 30 grand to go to a race and then another 30 grand to lose going down the track on one race. So one of my techniques is I try to get guys out of their betting comforts.
So we're in Vegas. That's in poker. That's called putting somebody on tilt.
Right.
So they know they have the best hand, or they're very confident in the best hand, and they bet the hand the way they're supposed to. And you come out of nowhere and triple the bet, and all of a sudden they're second guessing what's going on. They know there's only 3 cards that can beat them, but they also know they can't afford to lose that hand, and so they're in for 100,000, 10,000, 15,000. They don't want to make it 45.
Right.
Right.
And that's definitely my mechanism. So that's one of the main things, and I think that's just a part of my character, what I do. But I try to get the guys out of their comfort zone.
No, you know, that's funny because that's no different than a true sales position, right? It really is. Because like in sales, the whole objective is that when I come in, I need you to make the determination that I'm the expert and that you're not comfortable telling me what's going on, but instead I'm telling you, right? This is a very like high level Gary Vee style like attack where it's like, I don't actually over talk or out talk things. My father used to sell cars. And I remember my father would say he would sell cars based on what people wanted and getting them to talk. And then if people talked enough, they'd tell you what they needed. I think that's probably the same thing you're seeing here where, you know that is an area of like pressure on a guy.
Right.
That's an easy door to unlock, especially if you're very tactful with it. And I think that right there, that just shows that level of determination that you have to drive a path that not everyone else is willing to take.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. That's definitely my mechanism.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm sitting here. I just met you. I've not seen the show, anything like that. But just everything about the way you carry yourself and the way you talk and stuff like that. If you're confident enough to lay a big bet, I'm out. I mean, I'm just telling you right now. Like I'm out.
like that.
I'm out now.
I'm out now. I like that. Well, but it works at times, but it's cost me a lot of money too when I lose.
So we're going to wrap here in just a couple of minutes, but again, I want to let everyone know that's within listen. My man is very gracious. I said this off the top, but I just want to point this out. He is located at the House of Cars stage today, just over on the other side next to Andy Redco and across from our friends at Diamond Protectors. He is signing over there for you today. He has a flyer that he's got a race coming up, and I'm going to have him tell you about it, or a show coming up. Car show that he's also part of here in Vegas. You're going to be able to come out and also see him more in his element when you're talking about that. Plus, he's here with the car show this weekend with us. But he's over there, and he'll sign your lanyard. He'll sign any of the show stuff you have. And he is not charging for autographs this weekend for you guys. Completely free. He wants to just experience your guys' fandom here. When you knew we were coming to a diecast show, though, because you got that car show coming up. We haven't got a car show. When you go into a diecast show, though, like, is there an area of this that either you'd like to know more about or you're excited about, either side?
So if anyone who's a true car enthusiast like us, we start off as kids. I was so infatuated with these cars since I was a kid. And to see them again on this level, like I've never seen nothing like this. I'm just interested. I'm like a kid in a candy store. I want to walk around and see all now I get to meet the people that makes these cars, that custom these cars and stuff like that. So I'm interested in the whole ordeal, man. It's very, very exciting. I'm very happy to be here. It's definitely an honor to be able to come back, because this, to me, takes me back to my roots.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, too, one of the questions that I had a minute ago, and I didn't want to interrupt anybody, but so with Fast and the Furious and your shows and the other shows that are on and stuff like that, street racing is becoming a very, very mainstream thing. We've got 3 of the guys here from Fast and Furious, and if you look around at every one of these booths, they've got the Fast and Furious cars. They've got the Jetta for Jesse, and they've got the different, Dom's cars and stuff like that. So how much do you think that impacted the success of your show and the view that people have of what you do?
I think it's a huge impact. I think, so it kind of seems to me like the car, after the Dukes of Hazzard and those type of shows, it seemed like everything fell off for a while. And I feel like the Fast and Furious, the type of show that they brought, it brought a lot of attention back to the car scene. And I think when we came out with a racing show, because that was like racing, but street. And it kind of, to me, it molded the fans to, it pointed them in our direction. And I feel like that is what propelled us to be able to have so much success. Because our show been on the air, I think we aired for like 14 years. So I really think that gave us the momentum.
Nice.
You know, it's funny how fast those years accrue, and you don't even realize it. You know,
Has
when
it
I
been
think
14 years?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I started in Pawn Stars. I started season 13. We're now in 19, but we had 2 seasons that we ended up filming 2 different seasons that all became 1 season, right? So we technically are in 20, now 22, because it's kind of like a lost episodes type thing going on. But isn't it funny how quick that goes by?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you turn around, they're like, when was that moment when you noticed, you're like, man, this is really something special?
Yeah, it flies by, man. With the time, what happened with me was when I looked on a TV show of recent, and I looked back and I was like, holy smack, look how young we were. Like when we started that show, everybody was skinny, little scrawny little guys, and man, you look at us now with big gray hairs, and the time really flew, man. That really flew.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And again, all the success that you've had on the show and everything. Is there that one episode, that one moment, that one thing that stands out? Is there that one clip that you're like, this is the one that like I'm gonna pin to my Instagram or like get up there and showcase?
Yeah, man. It was for me. I struggled a lot on the show. And with competing, I wasn't competing on the highest level. I had a lot of things. People know how racing is, cars. Everything got to be clicking for everything to go be successful. So it's one show. It's called Fastest in America. Well, no, America's List. And Fastest in America. Let me take that back. It's the Fastest in America.
He's fact-checking you right now.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I did really well on that show. I did really well. I actually performed better than I performed throughout the years. Excuse me. And that was my highlight. So I beat a lot of people that day for the first time. I mean, that series for the first time. And to me, that go down to one of my highlights.
Well, we appreciate you being here at the show. We know you got another hit for our live at home audience who can't join us here at the show. We'll be coming back. We'll get more with you a little bit later with Brendan as well. I appreciate you taking the time and just coming over and coming and joining us here. Yes, John, you got a question?
Unfortunately, I won't be. So right now, I don't know if you're familiar, but we lost our contract with Discovery. So right now, we're just filming, and the finances is not there. So it's just hard to make these races without the money behind us. So unfortunately, I won't be there, but the guys, they will race.
What if you had someone that stepped up and sponsored you to go there? Would you do that?
If I had someone to step up and sponsor me, I'd be at every race they have on the schedule.
Mr. John Dick, you might want to have a conversation with this gentleman.
So the question, we're streaming and we can't hear this on the thing. So the question is, when will you be putting out your own diecast line?
Well, you and I need to talk. We can talk about that because I've been wanting to do that. I can't even remember. I had my assistant look into it, and at the time, the deal just didn't make sense for us. So I would love to talk to you and figure out, or we can work something out, because I actually made one diecast of my car, and we put it out on my internet, and all my fans, they really, really wanted it. So I definitely have the feed. So we'll be talking soon.
He bought every one of them, is what he's saying.
Wow, he bought every car at the show he could find to get autographed.
Wow,
That's you know,
amazing.
hey, that's
Wow.
a
Hey,
dedicated
you get a free autograph
That's
today.
a dedicated fan right there for you. Maybe we can make that work as well. So, which I think would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll be
Like-
talking to you for sure after this.
Absolutely. And again, too, just so you know, we have a ton of manufacturers here on the floor. So we'll make sure that we get an opportunity for them to come by and say hello and introduce yourself to them as well. We'll make that happen. Again, ladies and gentlemen, Jermaine Pawty, No Prep Keen, Street Outlaws. Give my man a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
We
Appreciate
will,
y'all.
of course, be seeing you a little bit later, and he's available for autographs right over on the House of Cars stage. Make sure you guys do that. Coming up here in about 8 minutes, the lead directive creator from Maisto Toys, Eddie Castro, will be up here on the stage. Team from Maisto probably will join him in some way, form, or fashion, because that's how they roll. Maisto Toys coming up here in under 10 minutes right here on the main stage. If you guys have any questions on things, grab the schedule off the screens or grab one of the QR codes up top and make sure you see everything that's coming up today here on the main stage and on the influencer stage. Once again, thanks for coming, and you guys, we'll see you soon. We'll be back in a little bit.